Hey everyone and welcome to another Let's Max Warframe where we're going to take another look at a weapon I gave pretty crummy reviews of at the time. And that's because every single weapon in that class sucked, and that is the Tenno Machete, the Gazal Machete. At the time we only had the old school stance for it, Sundering Weave, which quite frankly was terrible. There's no damage multipliers, no guaranteed status procs, nothing. Even the animations were super lackluster, and it literally dragged the entire class of weapons down with it. However, along came Cyclone Kraken and everything changed. So I decided that in a week where I want to go back and look at weapons that badly need updating whilst waiting for Operation Plague Star, let's check out what has changed with the Gazal. The base stats haven't changed though. Its base damage of 52 is the highest out of all of the machetes, with it being mostly /2, which makes it amazing against fleshy stuff. And then it's got a dash of impact and puncture. The 10% crit chance doesn't sound like enough to make a crit build work, however, because of how strong Blood Rush is, you can make it work actually pretty well. And that 200% critical damage multiplier means it's going to hit pretty hard when it does crit. Combine that with a 25% status chance, you can either go with a full status build with Condition Overload, or push for a crit and Condition Overload build, which is one of the strongest builds out there. The good points do keep going on as well. Attack speed of just under 1.1 makes it pretty fast as well, so you're going to get some decent attack speed going if you're using Berserker or Prime Fury, whichever you prefer. It also has a really high chance to stagger an enemy as well, so while that is different to an impact proc, so it's not going to give you more damage on your Condition Overload for example, it does mean you're going to stagger lock those tough to kill enemies, meaning they don't shoot you back, which is super handy at higher level. In fact, honestly, the only downside I can think of the Gazal Machete is that the Jin is tied to it, and that is kind of pretty squishy and doesn't last that long at higher level. But why is that important? Well, the Gazal Machete has a synergy with the Jin Sentinel, the only one in the game actually that does, with any Sentinel whatsoever. Every enemy you kill with the Gazal will add potential corrosive damage to the Jin's corrosive blast it does when Fatal Attraction activates. And when Fatal Attraction does activate, not only does it now hit harder, but it will also give a corrosive damage buff to the Gazal as well. It's a nice little bit of synergy that works pretty nicely, provided you can keep your Jin alive, which honestly is easier said than done for the most part. In terms of the stance, there's only one real choice here, and that is Cyclone Kraken. There is only a choice of two anyway, and Sundering Weave, as I said earlier, is awful in every way. But it does help that Cyclone is absolutely fantastic. The combo of Lightning Siren has a whole bunch of damage multipliers. It has two different guaranteed procs, Impact and Slash, during that combo. It's not only incredible for damage, but for stacking procs to get even more damage from Condition Overload. This stance completely changed the entirety of the Machete class, and has really turned them into a very capable and competitive weapon class. In terms of the build, I actually have three different ones I went for with this, making the Gazal fantastically flexible. I've got two former on here, which takes the polarities to 3Vs, and allows us to have any combination of these three builds going on. First build is basically crit Condition Overload, Prime Pressure Point, Blood Rush for crit chance as the counter goes up, Drifting Contact to maintain that combo counter as well. It gives us a little bit more status too, which is good. Berserker for attack speed every time we crit, Organ Shatter for crit damage, and then two dual stat elementals. In this case, I went with Viral. I found that Viral actually outclassed Corrosive on here. I think that has a lot to do with the guaranteed slash procs, meaning the weapon doesn't have to proc slash quite as often. So even with a higher status chance, proccing Viral multiple times instead of slash actually doesn't really affect it too much. And then you take into account the fact you get the extra corrosive damage if Jin does get his Fatal Attraction off, which doesn't seem to proc corrosive. So you get the extra corrosive damage without making the chance to proc either slash or Viral any less. And that is one heck of a combo. The second build is making more use of that theory that I looked at the other day with the Dragon Nakana, and well, I ditched it on that weapon. But this is the pure slash crit build. Most of the mods, again, are the same as the previous build I just showed, but this time, instead of two dual stat elementals, we have Buzzkill and Weeping Wounds. Now the reason for Buzzkill is that only 70% of the damage of the weapon comes as slash. You really want to have you're basically going to have a reasonable chance of proccing either impact and puncture as well. Buzzkill is on there to boost up the chance of getting the slash procs, which is where the real power of this build lies. Then we've got Weeping Wounds on there to further increase our status chance, and at a 3 times multiplier, you have 80% status chance, so you can really stack up those slash procs. Then add into that the extra corrosive damage from your Jin's Fatal Attraction buff, and then you have a corrosive damage with no chance to proc, plus a ton of slash procs bleeding the enemy. It's a fantastic bit of synergy and makes this build really, rather crazily good. The third and final build is a pure status one, which is honestly by far the weakest of the 3 from my testing. Prime Pressure Point, Prime Fury as our attack speed mod, Condition Overload for damage on status proc, Drifting Contact for keeping our combo counter up and giving us a bit more status, combining that with Weeping Wounds to give us more status chance as our combo counter goes up. Then I've got 2 90% elemental mods and a dual stat. In this case I went pure corrosive. This gives us 50% status chance, so with Weeping it only takes a 2.5 times combo multiplier to hit 100% status, but then pure corrosive so we don't dilute the procs, and it gives us less chance to proc. If you have too many elementals on there, it dilutes the procs and gives you more chance to say proc heat, for example, if you had corrosive and heat, and that gives you less chance to proc corrosive, and that reduces the chance of stripping enemy armor. I didn't really like this build that much, and it was quite a bit weaker than the other 2. However, if you don't like either of the other 2, this is actually the most reliable, since its power is available basically straight away without the need to build it up like the other 2 builds needed. So what do I think of the Gazal Machete, bearing in mind I was less than impressed with it the first time around, and you know what? Wow, it's blown me away this time around. I was not expecting to find a little pocket powerhouse in this thing. While Jin is a fantastic Sentinel, he is super squishy, so unless you're using a frame that either makes him invulnerable, or makes it so that they don't shoot towards him at those higher levels, I really wouldn't rely on the extra damage coming from him. But even without him, the Gazal Machete can deal with the strongest enemies you are going to come up against. You can see it with these 120 Eximus in the background right now. Sometimes a class of weapon just needs a bit of a helping hand. Sometimes it's not even the weapon's fault that they're bad, and in the case of the machetes, it absolutely was the stance that was letting them down, and it was letting them down terribly. Cyclone Kraken really has been a game changer, and it means that there is hope in the future for other horrendous weapon classes, cough cough dual daggers. Now the Gazal has got a new lease on life. It looks amazing, it's one of my favourite looking melee weapons, but it also has some pretty serious performance to back it up as well. I wasn't expecting to like this quite as much as I did, bearing in mind how much I criticised it before, and I'm glad that it doesn't rely entirely on the synergy with Jin to be able to function effectively. So like I say, Jin is pretty squishy, so relying on that too much could have killed the weapon off, but it doesn't, so we're all good. If you wrote the Gazal off when it originally came out, give it another shot. I guarantee you will be surprised, because damn, I know I was. So, I hope you enjoyed my look at the Gazal Machete. More updated weapon videos coming along this week, hopefully with a full guide on the upcoming event. But for now, many thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.